Hi, I'm Kathy Yanni, trustee of the Fire Victims Trust. As I'm sure you all know, in December we sold off the remaining stock that we had, which enabled us to put an additional $750 million into the trust. I wanted to make this video to explain the process for the next pro rata share and also to update you on what's happening in the trust. We are going to make the additional 6% pro rata payment, which makes the total payment 66%, starting on April 25th. Now, those are the payments for people who've already received the 60%, and it's what we call a true-up. You'll get an additional 6%, which will be distributed directly to you if you're not represented. And if you are represented, the money will either go directly to your lawyers, or if they have a third-party administrator, it will be distributed from there. After the money flows through either to the lawyers or to their third-party administrators, the money will then be distributed to the claimant. I want to address how can you, the claimants and lawyers, help with the process. And one of the most important things is that your email address that you've given to your lawyers or to the trust and any kind of banking information has to be up to date. So that will help us speed the process along and smooth it out some. So if you have an opportunity, please check to make sure that your email address and any information you've given your lawyers or the trust is up to date. This is definitely not the last pro rata payment. When we finish reviewing all the claims that we have now, and those claims are through the reconsideration and appeals process, we'll be able to know what the additional pro rata payment will be. It is my goal to have that distributed by the end of 2024. There may be a small top-off payment after that. It all depends on how the cases are resolved and how much money is left. The releases were part of the original trust documents from July 2020. They were approved by Judge Montali at that time, and they have always been part of the process. Releases are part of all litigation processes, really. If you're in an auto case, there's a release. A homeowner's case, there's a release. We're currently at 79% of all people have signed the releases. So we ask that the remaining percentage of people get those into us as soon as possible so that we can distribute the payments to you. Some people have asked, well, why are we having to do this now? And the answer to that is, when I became the trustee, I wanted to get as much money out to people as soon as possible. And I felt at that time the releases would have slowed that initial process. But now we're further enough along that it makes sense for the next pro rata payment that the releases be executed. If you don't accept your determination notice, unfortunately, we'll not be able to pay you. Judge Montali has ruled that he is not going to accept motions requesting him to intervene. Those are decisions he wants the power of the trust and me as trustee to ultimately determine. A lot of people have asked me questions about the minors' compromise process, and I want to explain that a little bit more. Pursuant to California law, and of course bankruptcy law, if you're under the age of 18, you're a minor. For your own protection, the courts have created the minors' compromise system. We've adopted that system. I appointed Judge Ellen James to be the special master, which means the person in charge of the minors' comps process. She has tremendous experience and has a wonderful way working with families. She was a Contra Costa County Superior Court judge for over 20 years. She's an expert in this area. It is important that everyone who has a claimant who's under the age of 18 get their papers on file as soon as possible. We changed the rules so that you only need a hearing with Judge James if your minors' comp award is $56,000 or more. The remainder of the claims are being done on the papers, again, reviewed and approved by Judge James, but it helps the process go quickly. If for any reason you want a hearing with Judge James, she's happy to do that. If you are not represented, she will require a hearing. Again, she's very quick. It'll move smoothly. But it's very important that you ask your lawyers to move the minors' compromise process through. It will not delay any payments to you, but it'll help get payments to the minors. I'd like to talk a little bit about the tax legislation, H.R. 724. The legislation sponsored originally by Congressman Doug LaMalfa and Congressman Mike Thompson has passed through the House. It is now in the Senate. We have taken a very active role both in talking to Congressman LaMalfa, sending letters. We've sent letters to everybody in the House. We've sent letters to Senator Schumer. We recently have sent a letter to Senator Crapo, and we are continuing to monitor. I talked to Congressman LaMalfa last week. He's hopeful that the legislation will pass in April. The Congress gets back April 8th, so that's the earliest date it could be. But I want you to understand that we think this is very important legislation, and it's bipartisan, and we're hoping it passes as soon as possible. I want to review the importance of everybody signing the releases. As you know, there are two releases. One is a release of the trust and affiliates of the trust. The other release is a release between the insurance companies. The only thing it does is say that the insurance companies went first before the sign-off with the claimants, and that Judge Montali agreed that that could happen. So it just is an order of who got a resolution of the bankruptcy workout before each other. It's very simple. Again, it does not eliminate any responsibilities the insurance companies have to you or complaints you might have about them. Both these releases need to be signed before we can issue 6% payments, or to those of you who've not received the payments directly to you. Sometimes there's a second set of releases, the same exact releases, but if, for example, you have a CQ under a business entity name, there will definitely be releases for the business entity, so you might have two sets of releases to sign. They're exactly the same, it's just that every entity has to sign a release. And some people have asked, well, what happens if we never sign the release? Well, if you never sign the release, we're never going to pay you. And at the end of the day, if there's money left over that has stayed in the trust because releases have not been signed, most likely we will seek the advice of Judge Montali what to do with that money. Most likely it will be distributed to the claimants who have signed releases. So it's super important that you get the releases signed and that they are signed before the April 25th distribution. The last possible time we'll be able to accept releases to get money as of the 25th will be April 15th. So please get them in, get the information updated, and we will get you the payments flowing. As of today, we're at 79% of all releases signed and filed with us. So you need to get the last percent in there for everybody who has accepted CQs. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch the video. If you need more information, please feel free to reach out to the Fire Victim Trust website. Thank you very much.